Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Au comité d'organisation, je vous remercie de m'avoir invité ici. C'est un honneur et un privilège. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the invitation to speak. It's fabulous being here in Quebec. New Zealand is a very long way away. You can fly there in 35 and a half hours if you want to. You can pretty much take any direction. And if you fly for 35 and a half hours, you will get there. It feels like a long way away, but there's one very strong similarity between Quebec and New Zealand, and that is that the people are very friendly in both countries and felt very welcome here from the organising committee and the people of Quebec. So, merci beaucoup. Today we're talking about informing decision makers and creating change with HIA. I have 15 minutes, around about 7.5 years of experience in New Zealand, so that's about 2 minutes per year, so we'll just go quite quickly. A little bit of a confession, I absolutely love this stuff. So if this was an anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, I'd be saying, hello, my name is Rob Quigley and I love HIA. I was very fortunate in that my first part of my career was in research and I identified issues, and now once I had identified an issue, I said someone will fix it, but they didn't. So I left the country and I went to London, and they gave me a job identifying what works to fix issues around here, to bridge that gap. And one of the things that I was working on was HIA, and did it work to reduce inequalities? And so I'd like to acknowledge all the people that I met in London and England and the United Kingdom and Europe who helped me learn the ropes between the years 2000 and 2004, and I was also fortunate enough to be seconded to WHO in Geneva, where I met Carlos Dora and was working on some web issues there, so also thanks to Carlos. But really talking about it and so on is nothing like doing it. And so I turned up back in New Zealand just as they launched a guide, and I knew that a guide wouldn't actually mean that any practice would happen. New Zealand launched the guide in 1997, and we did no HIAs based after that. But they then relaunched another guide in the year 2005, and I thought, chance for me here, I might set up a company and become a practitioner. So since then we've done practice, teaching, training in New Zealand, and I've also had the good fortune, as you've heard, to be working alongside Danny Broderick in South Australia and Carmel Williams and her Health and All Policies team. Here's some examples of some New Zealand HIAs. We've done 51 last count. There's many more which are too small to sort of hit the radar as you're getting into a health and all policies approach. Very similar to the American situation with urban planning and growth and transport being the large dividers, large component. Major events, right down the bottom there, number 1, Rugby World Cup 2011, which we won, by the way. We did an HIA on that as well. You can't really do HIA in New Zealand without doing something on rugby. You also need to know around HIAs that most of these occurred in the local government. So big local government faction over here, very small central government number of HIAs. We did strategies, policies, plans, programs, projects, all different types of HIAs have been covered across those 51, and there is no mandate for HIA in New Zealand. Every single one was done because it's a good idea. Luckily, New Zealand HIAs have been thoroughly evaluated. So out of those 51, 17 have had independent evaluations. And of course my job in the UK was, did HIA work? I couldn't hardly go back to New Zealand and then not do any evaluations. So I sort of was ethically bound, I suppose, to do them. Also the Ministry of Health, when they were giving out seed funding for any HIAs, they made it a requirement that they had to evaluate those HIAs as well. So we've got 17 of those. Ben Harris-Rojas has talked about the project that he set up along with his colleagues through Chetra, where they looked at 55 HIAs in New Zealand and Australia, and 24 of those were New Zealand ones. I'm not going to talk about the results of those at all today. I don't want to steal any of their thunder, but all I can say is I have seen the results. Yeah, pretty good. We've also got Louise Signal looking at the methods of evaluating HIA. Alex McMillan's done some work around 3 different public health approaches, one of which was HIA, and my colleague Jude Ball has reviewed 10 New Zealand HIAs using the Fredsgard and CAVE tool. So does HIA work? I can honestly stand before you and tell you that HIA works, because we have looked extensively, 17 evaluations. That's enough. It's enough to be able to say that HIA works. It's not enough to stop doing them, because there are many things that you learn when you undertake an HIA evaluation. Firstly, you inform and change the proposal. So you've got your proposal sitting there, and we actually change it. So that's pretty cool. We also alter the proposal development process. The evaluations have shown that. So the strategy is being developed, it's coming along like this, and then we do an HIA. It starts to change. We also inform and change other work streams. So there's a work stream, it's sitting over here, it's doing this, and we do an HIA over here, and then it starts to wiggle a bit differently. It actually changes a different work stream in the organisation. The organisation thinks differently and acts differently. HIA achieves understanding about knowledge of HIA. HIAs in New Zealand have achieved understanding around the social determinants of health. HIAs have developed technical skills, methodological skills, consultation skills, partnership skills, and governance skills. So quite a lot of stuff that these 17 HIAs have achieved. Here's a graffiti vandalism policy HIA as an example. Hastings District Council had a graffiti vandalism bit of a problem, and their main method of dealing with it was chasing after the vandals, catching them and locking them in jail, which was not considered to be an ideal situation. So the council was trying to look for a policy that was a little bit more broad than that. So we carried out an HIA on the graffiti vandalism policy to see whether or not we could make any suggestions. And here's some of the quotes that came back from some of the participants. And when you do an evaluation, these are the sorts of things that you hope to hear. I'm letting them read it. It's okay. I'm not panicking. So 15 of the 17 recommendations were accepted. Pretty pleased about that. That's pretty standard. We usually get most of them. HIA works when? What are the features of our practice that help us achieve those outcomes that I was talking about 3 slides ago? There's 2 slides here. HIA works when we have technical knowledge and skills, and HIA works when we develop soft skills, and the soft skills will be the next slide. I'm not going to spend a long time on this because I imagine we'll spend some more time on it in the questions, but understanding the determinants of health, having someone that understands causal pathways, someone who understands consultation is very important to make sure that your HIA works. You need someone who understands the proposal. Might sound simple, but my God, those proposals are complex. Understanding the decision-making process. The decision-making processes are equally complex. Someone on your team has to have a good understanding of that. Someone on your team, your team must collect data in multiple ways to produce multiple types of evidence. That's what we've found works well in our New Zealand situation to achieve outcomes. Screening and scoping are critical components, and it's really fabulous that HIA has screening and scoping built into the process. It makes you decide that you're going to work on the right proposal, and it makes you do some project planning. So many people just want to get straight in and do something. Just take a bit of time, screen, scope, and if it makes it through those 2 steps, you're probably onto a winner. Some of the soft skills, partnership working. I've been asking lots of questions of people about partnership working, and I've been really heartened by the discussions and the presentations from the floor about partnership. This is probably a massive one for me personally. I think it's really important. Consulting with communities and stakeholders is a big aspect of New Zealand HIAs, and it's been identified in the evaluation as an important feature of making HIA work in our situation. Influencing decision makers. I've used the word influence there because once I have my recommendations, I want to influence them. I become an advocate for those recommendations. I'm not an advocate up to that point. I'm presenting and looking objectively at the work, but I've got my recommendations. I want to try and get them incorporated and taken up by the decision maker. So how do I best do that? Flexibility, reality testing, and leadership. Skipping right along. HIA also works really well when we apply our values. So I've just popped this one in. This is not actually from the findings of the evaluations. This is my own personal understanding. I've seen many HIAs around the world where I look at them and I think, not so good. And I think it's because people are accepting a paycheck and leaving their values behind when they're doing that work. It's not a good idea. Some real life examples, we do a lot of adding substantial value that is beyond the decision making process. So we cover what people consider are very difficult issues for decision makers. How will this affect social connectedness? So they give that to us because no one else they know can possibly deal with social connectedness. They're happy dealing with water and air and noise and everything else, but social connectedness, hospital pass out to the HIA, good luck guys. Working with harder to reach populations, harder to reach from their perspective, but we have ways of working with local communities. Inequalities is a really big issue in New Zealand as elsewhere, and we have very good examples of where we have distributed resources more equally within communities through our HIAs, and clarifying communication would be another example where we've added value. What's less important? Sometimes, time and money. Maybe you didn't expect me to say that as a contractor. We do HIAs for very, very small amounts of money sometimes when we're just mentoring, and sometimes having a very small amount of time is quite useful because you just scope, make it much, much smaller. You say, out of scope, haven't got time, what can we do well within the time we've got? Quantification within New Zealand has always been a challenge because we do local level HIA application largely. I was saying very small amount of central government application, and therefore we haven't got very good local level databases. I've seen Rajiv's indicator set and I drool with envy at it. It is truly amazing. If you've got the ability to do something like Rajiv is doing there, then take that opportunity. You certainly don't need to be an expert at the start because you learn along the way. 25 of those HIAs where I have been probably the mentoring rather than undertaking have been done by people who are doing their very first HIA. And they are the ones which got evaluated and showed that they were effective. Brand new practitioners doing effective practice. Fabulous. What's really, really important from evaluation, you know that your HIA process is sound and that you know that you will add value. So when you go and see a decision maker and you say to them, and they say, why am I doing this? And you say, hand on your heart, I've got a really good process, I'm going to add value. So you can confidently go in there and say, I am going to help. You can also go in there with humility and humbleness and know your weaknesses so that you do not overpromise. It's the worst possible thing you can do, is overpromise and underdeliver. So you go in there and you say, what are your issues? And you might say, I've got an issue here, or they might say, oh, they've got an issue here, and you say, oh really? Well, I did an HIA over here, and it helped that decision maker come to a certain conclusion. They were able to help with that, and I've evaluated it, and I've got empirical evidence to show that I was able to help. Maybe I can help you with your work as well. That's the past, now what? So we're sitting there in New Zealand with lots of independent evaluations of our independent HIAs, and we're feeling pretty okay about it all. We've only done 51. Believe it or not, there has been more than 51 decisions taken in New Zealand in the last 7 years. So there's plenty of scope for doing more HIA. But how do we open the door between one-off effective HIAs and actually building much stronger relationships? And I'd like to finish by saying that I think it comes down to leadership and taking a much more health and all policies approach to the work. So in New Zealand we have a very similar system coming down from the central government with the policies and regulations and procedures and similar supports for HIA, no matter where you are in the country. We have Auckland, which was very good at doing HIAs and now do none. We have Hawke's Bay, who have done several HIAs and are still doing okay. We have Wellington, which is doing a number of HIAs and are doing well. We have Christchurch, who have done lots of HIAs and have got a thriving health and all policies, local practice. If anyone wants to see some really good local health and all policies, go to Christchurch, talk to Anna Stevenson. Great. We've basically got a case control study going on. We've got the same environment around the country, and some people are doing well and some people are doing rubbish. And I personally put it down to leadership, public health leadership within the local health boards, and also being able to tap into a leader within the partner agencies who are also able to work with you. So it requires leadership across organisations to allow the freedom to do HIAs and health and all policies. Thank you very much.